part of it. Hopefully we'll get a couple of viewers here real quick, and we'll get started. Oh, we already got 4.
Hooty-hoo.
The 4 most important people. 4 most important people in my life today.
There's no delay on this one either.
Huh?
On YouTube, there's no delay.
There should be a. Uh-oh.
Oh no, it's almost direct. Facebook had a pretty good delay.
All right.
Hello, travel baseball fans. Welcome to DFW Baseball Talk, where we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of travel baseball. Good morning. Today is January 15th, and we are at show number 7. Goodness, 7 shows in and rocking and rolling. We've got a special guest with us today, Mr. Chet D. Arnold. Welcome this morning, Chet. We appreciate you taking the time and coming to visiting with us today. Got some good stuff we want to get into with you, but how are you doing? How's everything going?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
No problem, man.
All right, let's stop.
You forget to hit record?
Yep.
Hey, at least we cut that off at 6 seconds, 7 seconds in.
Hey, we got 20 minutes in a couple of weeks ago. All right, we're going to do this again.
That's all right. Let's go. Hello, travel baseball fans. Welcome to DFW Baseball Talk, where we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of travel baseball. Hello, baseball fans. Today is January the 15th. We are at show number 7. We've got Chet D. Arnold in with us this morning. Chet, we appreciate you taking the time to come visit with us today. We got some fun baseball stuff we want to get into. How are things going with you today?
Everything's good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We've got my co-host, Joey Broussard, and at the controls, we've got Mr. Don Myers. Don, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great.
Joey, how's everything going with you?
If I'd be any better, I'd be twins, man.
Oh, we don't want that. We will, speaking of Joey, we will get into our question of the week, our umpire segment. Go ahead and talk about our USO.
The USO, something we'll start doing each week is we'll do the USO rules corner, and I'm going to ask a situation to everybody sitting in the room, and we're going to go ahead and talk about the ruling on it and get into a little depth of how to break down the rule book and educate our listeners, hopefully every week on something new about baseball from a rules perspective.
Joey will post this question on Facebook once a week, and then we'll go over it on our show and give the answer according to the rule book and kind of dive into a little bit of that every week. So I think that's going to be a fun segment because and even on my part, I was wrong. I know it's rare, but I was wrong. So, we'll figure out the truth to that.
And I post that on the Baseball Coaches Rule Corner, which is a Facebook group I run just for coaches to be able to educate and continue to provide some rules-based knowledge to help coaches specifically in the area.
Yeah, good. No, I love it, man. I think it'll be awesome. Again, we've got Chet Arnold with us today. Chet is from Tyler, Texas. He was a 5-time swim champ, 4-time Letterman in Tyler. What high school was that? John Tyler High School. The first one was when he was the elite swimmer from his dad, and then that's when he was born. So that's the first swim champ title you got right there, right?
Yeah, that was the first.
The big prize.
Exactly. Chet has 6 kids, just a new baby girl. And what is she? She 2 yet?
No, she's 1. She just turned 1 a month ago.
Oh man, it seems like she should be 5 already.
Oh yeah, it seems like it, but no, not yet. One day at a time.
And we'll get in more with Chet and his background. But one thing I want to start off with is the big news of the week was the cheating scandal of the Houston Astros and also the Boston Red Sox, which is going to be fun, man. Because I'm telling you, the crazy thing is I'll be in Houston Saturday morning, and I'm running a camp with Carlos Correa, and I doubt that they're going to do a session on cheating, but we'll see how that goes. I mean, it ought to be fun. I know there's over 300 kids that are going to be there as of right now, and they're expecting it to be closer to 6. So
what age group are the kids? High school?
No, it's man, I think it's 8 to high school. So it'll be a whole bunch of different kids.
Oh, I can assure you there's going to be some teenager that's walking to a dugout and is going to start banging on a trash can.
I wouldn't doubt it. I'm a big time Rangers fan, so I don't mind it either. So, but that ought to be interesting, really. And I'm sure I'll find some time to pull him aside and we'll talk a little bit about it. But I'm going to tread lightly on that with him as well, though.
I would. You know, there's been a whole bunch of social media talk about this, and this really has gained some legs. Stealing signs has been part of the game for as long as anybody can remember. And per the MLB rule book, stealing signs in and of itself is not illegal. The part that is illegal is using the electronic device to gain a competitive advantage.
Right. And I'm kind of conflicted on the whole thing because, again, like stealing signs or getting signs is an advantage that everybody looks for. I mean, I look down the third baseline and look at that coach and kind of see what they're doing. And you know, I see it in high school. I see it in travel ball. And I think it's the degree that they went to was too far when you start using, you know, video and, you know, banging. I mean, here's the thing. Everybody does something in one way or another, but it was using video to actually do it. That's what the harsh punishment was for. Because the commissioner had sent out, I think as far back as early 2017, maybe late 2016, some guidance when they started allowing video replay in the dugouts during the game that specifically said this cannot be used to steal signs and gain a competitive advantage. Right. And I think the harsh penalty that came from that is because of that directive, and it was sent out multiple times. What has surprised me the most is that none of the players are getting any punishment from this. Yeah, and I think, I mean, even the World Series or the playoffs last year, the Astros players, you could tell, I mean, they're cerebral about their game. They were going back and forth and talking to the guy on deck and, hey, he's doing this, he's holding his hands up high. And I mean, hey, that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. The thing about signs and however you gain your advantage is you have to be discreet about it. You know, there's kids, and we see them all the time, you know, they'll show their hand on it's an inside pitch or outside pitch. And, you know, when you get into high school, those are reasons that kids get pegged for, you know, or something like that. There is going to be some retaliation, especially starting at high school. I would never say to do it with youth and little league, but at the same time, you know, I have talked to coaches and be like, hey man, you know, I don't mind you doing what you're doing, but let's be more discreet about how we're doing it.
Talking about it in the youth game, my favorite is when I hear dad sitting in the stands. It's curveball coming. It's curveball, right? There's nothing discreet about it.
Yeah, man, that's giving signs. And a couple of years ago with my 12-year-old team, and you know, I mean, you don't want to make it real complicated or anything like that, but I had a dad that was sitting next to their dugout, and he did the exact same thing you're talking about. Curveball coming, or fastball inside or something like that. And I'm just like, man, are you serious? I mean, is that what we've come to now? I mean, you know, again, if you're going to do it, but be discreet about it. Because if not, I'm going to get ticked off about it. And, you know, I wouldn't do that to somebody else. If I'm going to do it, we're going to be discreet about it. I mean, have some integrity is the way I look at it.
I'm 100% agree with you.
I mean, Chet, you got any insight on that from a parent's perspective?
Man, it's funny that y'all are talking about stealing signs. I've been around baseball for a long time, and I don't even know the signs. I never knew what my coach was telling the kid to throw. I never knew. I don't know how to steal signs. I just don't. And I hear people say that's a part of the game, and it may very well be from a father has a picture for a son. I'm saying I hate it. when my kid is getting hit, I never even think that maybe they stole the sign. I'm thinking, man, something's wrong with that bat. That bat's loaded. I never think about the sign that they stole the signs.
Yeah, and it's tough being the parent of a pitcher, because I see that, other dads that are around, when your kid's playing and you're with them and you're kind of, especially when you get into big time baseball playoffs in high school, as a parent, you're on every single pitch, ball, strike, whatever, they get a hit. For the other dad next to me, his a pitcher. So for us, it's a little bit more, I want to say tense or how you explain it.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's tense, and I always hear people say, don't talk to your kid, don't talk to your kid. But I know my kid. I know if he's not lifting his foot. I know if he's tilting his head the wrong way. I know that there's something wrong with him. Maybe he's not there mentally, not the physical part, but he's checked out, and I'm to check back in. And I know that's not the right thing to do. But as a parent who raised an undersized kid, I didn't want him not to have every advantage that I knew he was supposed to have taking the mound.
And when you talk about that, you're talking about Chan, who's at DBU right now. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Chan, I remember seeing him when he was just, man, a little skinny twig. And, he's a gamer, though, man. I love that kid. He played a showcaser. I think it was his junior year, wasn't it?
Yeah, I talked to Tom England about that this morning, and I didn't remember if it was his sophomore year or junior year. But definitely, he went to Oklahoma with you a couple of times, and Houston with you a couple of times, and that's big because we didn't really allow to guest play that much.
Yeah, Chan was a fun kid to be around. And we talk about how quiet he always was, but I tell you what, he wasn't quiet when he came to me and told me he wanted to bat and he wanted to be in the lineup. And then I put him in the lineup, and he looked at me and he goes, "Okay, just let me pitch."
Yeah. Actually, Chandler, we didn't know what Chan was going to do when he was growing up. Certainly, by the time he got with Coach Willie, and Willie started to mentor him, we knew that his future was going to be pitching.
I'll be the first one to tell you that, I've known Willie and his family for a long time. And, to me, he's probably one of the best pitching coaches around. He's the pitching coach for me for our varsity team at the Episcopal School of Dallas. And, it goes a lot further than what he works with those kids in a pitching lesson. He's very cerebral about the game. He talks about the game. He talks about the mental side of a pitcher. And Willie is just unbelievable, with some of the things that he does. When did Chan start working with Willie? About how old?
We met Willie when Chandler was 12. And Chandler was small, and Willie used to tell him, "We're going to teach you to pitch in the body that you have while we wait for the body that you want." And that to me meant everything. Chandler would go with Willie when, he would miss family reunions, he would miss things, or he'd have to go to things late. And that dedication, not only from Chandler, but for Willie, I didn't realize it until later, but if Chandler was missing things on the 4th of July and things like that, then so was Willie. But Willie was dedicated to making sure that Chan had everything that he needed and that he stayed on a regular routine. And there was go to pitch with Willie Lopez, and they wouldn't throw but one pitch, and Willie would sit him down, and then they talked. And I don't know too many people that would go to a pitching lesson and pay for the pitching coach to talk to their kid for 30 to 45 minutes. And those pitching lessons to me were probably more valuable than the pitching lesson where he got through 10 curveballs, 10 changeup, and 15 to 20 fastballs. And that you just don't see that. I've never heard of any other pitching coach that would, do a lesson for 30 minutes and just talk to you for the whole 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's a lot of the things. Those are a lot of the things that we do, not only with pitching, but even hitting. Mm-hmm. We'll get in there, and when everything is going right for the kid, whether it's pitching or hitting, let's sit down and talk about it. Let's sit down and talk about what your mindset is, not only pitching, but hitting. What is your approach? What are you thinking of? And, we will sit down and talk about that. And those are some things that I've learned from Willie too, is, we can't just sit in there and throw, or hit. Let's sit and talk about it to make sure that our athletes are mentally prepared for whatever they got to do, whether it's throw a ball or hit a ball. And to me, that goes a long way, because situations are what this game is all about. And finding that place to where they're comfortable speaks volumes for what he's going to end up doing.
Yeah, and that's one thing. I know Chandler was comfortable with Willie. Man, there's probably 100, 200, 300 around DFW. And I won't say that Willie is the best. Certainly there are other coaches who have more skins on the wall and more trophies, but you got to find who's best for you. Who's the right fit for your kid, who can communicate with your kid. It got to the point with Willie, I'm pushing Chandler, and he's still a kid, and Willie would have to be that voice, the mediator between us sometimes, because I want to go. And, kids are kids, and he wants to go be a kid sometimes. And there were times where that had to be allowed. And me wanting to push him and thinking that if he misses out, being undersized, he's going to miss out. And, he needs to be a kid also.
Yeah. And is he still taking lessons from Willie?
Willie is his pitching coach. Willie is Caden's pitching coach. And I think Willie is going to be my baby girl's pitching coach.
Before we get too far down the road, and this is some really good information, guests who don't know who you are, Chet D. Arnold, your claim to fame is, the way I know you is through a Facebook baseball group that you started called North Texas Baseball versus the World.
Yeah, North Texas Baseball versus the World was a group started by Victor Morales and myself. We were, I think, when my 12-year-old was 8, Vic and I were talking, and we had a game with Sidious, and where the Banditos 8U at the time would always battle with Sidious. And I own a magazine, and on my Facebook page for the magazine, we used to go toe to toe, and I had to move us off of there. Vic said, Chet, create a group. I said, Vic, you create the group. He says, man, you created. People, you're in marketing, you created. So I went home that night, I created the group. I added Dominique. Dominique added a couple of people. I went to bed that night, there was 8 people. Woke up the next morning, there was 112. And that's where North Texas Baseball versus the World came from, a group started by Victor Morales and myself.
And when you started this page, what was the intent?
The intent was for parents to have a place to go to, quite frankly, just to be a Monday armchair quarterback. The group was never intended for organizations to recruit kids, but I knew that it had the possibility to be that. Years ago, Don, you guys had a page where we used to all go to and talk, and Glenn Roberts and I were moderators on that site, and so it's the same thing. It's
looking for players,
and that's really where the idea came from. As Facebook has evolved, and then it's the same thing, different places. Same. But it was never intended for profit. It was never intended for people to come there, sell, and to make the page look like a green sheet. It's just a place for parents to go, and even for parents to find teams, not for teams to find players.
And you talk about for profit. What exactly do you mean for profit? Because I know one of the big issues with it, especially, the majority of it is parents, and the biggest issue that they have is people looking for players. And I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm guilty. I've done it. Why not? If you got over, 3,000 members or however many you have,
I think it's roughly 12,500 some odd members, and those are mostly parents. So I can see why organizations would do it. And what we tried to do was to curve that, and then we said, okay, we'll make it $10 for profit. A lot of guys were selling ring holders. There was guys selling turf. I mean, you name it. If it had something to do with baseball, people that run tournaments looking for teams. What we didn't want it to look like was an online green sheet. So we said, hey, okay, $10. You're gonna charge a team $400, $500 to come play in your tournament, and you're gonna get at least one team. You've made your money. And then when I started to write the post for the $10, I said, you know what? I'll change it to $3. And we still had people to complain. And Don, how much have you collected? I mean, there's
actually, through the North Texas Baseball versus the World website, right. Chet was the promotions on there to benefit the Travel Sports Baseball scholarship. And to date, as of this morning, thank you, Mike Hamilton, we have raised a grand total of $3.
I've seen a bunch of posts of people saying they tagged on, they tagged Chet, they're sending money. So Mike, that's Mike Hamilton with CCBA.
That Mike Hamilton, CCBA, very, very, very good man, very honest man. And we're going to hopefully take that $3, stretch it as far as we can between our applicants, and send some boys to college.
Yeah, we originally there were people who had sent me the $3, and I held on to the $3 for 24 hours, and I rejected it. It wasn't that I wanted the money; I just didn't want the advertising on the page. And I know that was a touchy subject with a lot of people, but people need to understand that's my page. I don't tell people how to run their homes and how to run their businesses. And it's okay. I get it. But $3 is intended for the baseball scholarships that Dunn gives out. Dunn is really public about who he's giving the money to. He's extremely public about how much of the money he's given. And so that was my idea, to help our community and give kids the extra money that they need. Baseball is really expensive. And if that money goes and it can stretch and help a kid, that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, and that's what the whole thing's about, is with this scholarship. It's about, it started out as just me wanting to do something. But I realized, the more people we get involved in it, we get the community involved in it, we can really grow this thing and get these kids some much needed money. There's a lot of kids out there that can't afford even junior college. We want to make those things happen. And I know there's been 7 of them already in the last 18 months that we've been able to help with that. And it's super important that we grow that scholarship. I don't care what it's called. I don't care if it's the North Texas Baseball Scholarship, the Travel Sports Baseball Scholarship, the Mickey Mouse Scholarship. I could care less, as long as the kids meet the criteria and we award that money and we grow it every year. That's all I care about. That's all the guys. A lot of us got involved in this at the exact same time, 2018 group. And we all knew we wanted to help. A lot of us didn't have any idea what we were doing when we started out. After, like Chet, after you're around 10, 12 years, you know what the needs are, you know how to do it, you know how to get it done. And that's what we're trying to do with it.
Yeah, no, I think it's great what you guys are doing and what you're building. And again, I mean, a lot of that is now. The first year it was coming from registration or no longer paid or no longer accepted.
We're national championship sports now, and they retain it.
Yeah, so a lot of those funds come directly from Don's pocket, unless other people donate. Or
half of them do. The other half comes from Domingo, and then we also get a small grant from Strikes 21. I'm not sure if it'll continue this year, but I'm sure Adam would want to still be involved in that. And then just the people wanting to get involved in it.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of parents who don't have kids in college or haven't had a kid in college don't realize the fees that you incur. Even paying for books, which a lot of those fees will cover books, what you guys are able to give them. And that's a big deal. I mean, I know for my first daughter going into college, I mean, every time we turn around, there's another fee or another this or another that. And, when you move them into their dorms or their apartments, I mean, that's like them moving out of the house and into somewhere else where they need the little things like the toilet paper and the toothbrushes and all those things that, like moving into a brand new house, you need new stuff. And those fees add up. How did they add up for you, Chet?
Well, the fees added up, but there was the unexpected expenses is what catches you. There are things there's things that you plan, and then there's things that you don't plan for. And we were extremely lucky. We came from a group called Thrive Baseball, and Thrive Baseball actually helped us out a lot. Thrive Baseball afforded us the opportunity to be able to extend our dollars that we were given and to maximize the money that we had. So we were also a beneficiary of Don's scholarships with Chandler. And this is before Don and I even knew each other. Chandler's a class of 2018. And I'd known Don through the page, but he and I had never met before. And we wrote an essay, and we were chosen to get part of that scholarship. And that money helped us. It helped us tremendously. We moved Chandler in, and Chandler was going to Odessa, and that was 5 hours away. So that helped Chandler come home a couple of times. That helped him get uniforms and undershirts and things that he needed. It helped him to get things for his dorms that he needed. And man, I don't know what happens when a kid goes away to school, but their appetite increases tremendously. So I think he ate most of the money now, and that we couldn't have kept him fed if it
I'm experiencing that right now.
Well, and the thing too is look, everybody says from a parent's perspective, hey, we got you in the meal plan. This is the best meal plan, but it's just like anything else, man. Those kids get tired of eating the same thing every single day. And it's like cafeteria food. So it doesn't always agree with your either. So you do want to eat different things sometimes.
Yeah. And I questioned that. I'm like, Chandler, what is wrong with the food? He said the food's not good. Dude, you survived my cooking for 18 years. The food can't be that bad. And so Glenn Roberts and I went on a trip down one day, and we went and that's what we wanted to see. I didn't want to see the campus. I went right to the cafeteria. I wanted to see what was so bad about it. And maybe it wasn't the food was bad. Maybe it just wasn't seasoned the way I seasoned my. So, there it is.
So you should, instead of buying him more food, bought him more seasonings.
Yeah, well, we thought about that. We actually told him he needed to put some seasoning in his backpack. And I think more girls would do that than guys. But what he decided to do was just to eat Chick-fil-A 3 times a day. And that was expensive.
Oh yeah. So who are your moderators for your page now?
Juan Acala is a moderator. Glenn Roberts is administrator. So between the three of us, names on it, but Michael Clements still has his hands on things, and Scott Harp behind the scenes. If they see something, they kind of help us keep the page clean. And unfortunately, Jamie Saylor is still around.
That's what I was going to ask. What happened with Jamie Saylor? He don't hear too much from him.
Before we get into that, we're just going to have a word from our sponsor real quick. Top Prospects Academy, TPA Baseball.
Of our sponsors, TPABaseball.com. Come check out a top-of-the-line, all-inclusive baseball, softball training facility that is climate controlled. We have pitching machines, private lessons, cage rentals, access to radar gun technology, Rapsodo, and blast motion. If you are a first-time customer and mention that you heard us on this podcast, you will receive 6 free tokens to use on machines and to check out the place. TPABaseball.com.
Yeah, we want to thank TPA for helping sponsor the broadcast that we do every week, and just help this thing get better. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And also if you're on our YouTube stream, you can go and add yourself to sign up for it. I think it's on the lower left-hand corner.
Yeah, it's the DFW Baseball Talk logo. It's on the lower right-hand corner.
Right-hand corner. Yeah, please go and subscribe to that. That helps us out a little bit, and you can go and see the content that we have on there. So thank you. So back to what we were talking about. Where's Jamie? You don't hear much from him anymore. I know there was some back and forth with a couple of people, and
got catfished.
Jamie Saylor is still around. I think Jamie decided to step back on his own. We actually sent Jamie an invitation probably a month ago to reacquire his rights as administrator, and he declined. I think that he can't control himself. So he just decided to not be a part of it. And I'm okay with that.
Some of the things, I didn't take offense to some of the stuff he put on there. I think it was, if you don't know him or don't know, what he's doing, you can take offense to it. I know Jamie, I think he's a good guy and he means well. But I think a lot of it was taken out of content and kind of hurt his reputation too. And I hate to hear that, especially from a Facebook page. I mean, because we're all just here to have a good time with it. I mean, you read some of the comments that are on there and some of the things that go on a weekly basis. And, I love it. I read it. There's times that I'm just like any other dad out there and up till 1, 2 in the morning, reading it and laughing my butt off and listening to what some of these people have to say. And I mean, I think it should be out of good fun, but it doesn't always end up that way.
No, and things can be taken out of context. And I honestly believe that it was just a joke. And with everything, it's timing. And I think the timing was just completely off. So that's where that went. And I hadn't even thought anything else about that incident until you brought it up just now.
Oh, my bad.
But Jamie, Jamie does something at least once or twice a day that tops that as far as messaging me and the group that us and the moderators are in.
Well, him coming out of retirement, what I say of North Texas Facebook versus the world, he's been putting some memes. When you started, you can't sell here. He's got the Chet memes going on, and felt like I know when that post had happened, he riled up the group down in Houston.
Yes, he did
tremendously. On this same kind of topic, when we're talking about the group, I remember when I joined the group, I think 3.5 years ago, there's less than 2,000 people. It's well over 12,000 now. For the first couple of years of the group, almost until the incident with Jamie, y'all didn't really moderate the group too much. You kind of let a free-for-all kind of happen. There it is. We got a picture up that Jamie posted a Chet. But, up until recently, and I'm going to say within the last year, y'all didn't try very hard to moderate it. You kind of let things go where they may. What was the thought process behind that, and how's that group evolved from there?
Well, wait, before you answer that, I think there was even some times on there where, and me if I'm wrong, where people even said, hey, if you don't have thick skin, then get off this page, because that was kind of the way it was. People said what they felt and did what they wanted to do, and it wasn't moderated. It was just one of those things that people could say or do whatever they wanted to, and it, if you didn't like it, then get off.
Yeah, to that extent, we all have jobs, and the North Texas Baseball versus the World Facebook page doesn't pay anything. I publish 3 magazines, and I have 6 kids, and I'm into fishing and antique vehicles and restoration and those things. That page doesn't run me. And so there were times where that I wouldn't log on until I wanted to, or until somebody said, hey, you need to do this, or you need to pay attention to what's going on. And I think at the time, most of the people on that page, we kind of knew, and we kind of expected them to behave themselves in a way that we knew that they would behave themselves in person. So we kind of thought that, hey, you're going to act like you act when we're at a baseball field. And that's not the case. I think people tend to say things and do things on the social media that they would not normally do in person.
Right.
And so that the thought process now is we don't see that happening. And we've been threatened, and there's been threats with physical violence. So now we're more in tune with trying to make sure we delete things, remove things, and remove people who don't have the group's best interests at heart.
So people have personally threatened you because of content on the page?
Once. I've been threatened physically once, and I've been called names, and I can get to it pretty quick and delete it. But I think people do that, and they don't have any idea who I am. And
who would threaten on a Facebook page?
You'd be,
a lot of people.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. And
is it those people that feel more manly behind a keyboard than they do in person?
I believe so. I believe so. You know.
Yeah, you see that all the time, and you see the stuff on on Facebook and even other pages where people are going to blows, and some of the stuff that I see on there, it's unbelievable, because there's some people I see put stuff on there and I'm like, man, in person, I know you're not like that. Come on now.
Yeah. And I'm not that type of person to where I'm going to go back and forth with anybody. I'm probably the least violent person you've ever met in your life. And when people say things to me, I'm like, you don't know me. You don't know that I'm just here to have fun. And I'm a family man, and I just want to enjoy my kids, enjoy my family, and that's it.
Well, I do want to, before I forget, I do want to tell you that, you being a veteran, I appreciate, and I thank you for your service and what you've done for our country. And, I know that you're not shy about posting on there the things that you've gone through and some of the pictures and stuff like that. And I think it's awesome. But not only you, but also you've had 2 sons and 1 currently in the military. So thank you for your service, and thank your sons for your service, man. It really means a lot to me. And I appreciate that. Just being American, man, that really makes me feel good to know that there's people like you that want to fight and want to represent our country and, put their life on the line for people they don't even know.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. But when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, it was never about fighting for my country. I think a lot of us, if we're completely honest, everybody goes to the military for their own personal reasons and things of that nature. I was lucky enough to be in the military with a bunch of great guys, and I love serving. I love being in the military. I love wearing a uniform, but it was an end to a means. We were talking earlier before we got on about what I did in high school, and I was a swimmer in high school. I swam. That's what I did. I left East Texas on the first thing smoking, and the first thing smoking was a bus to go into the military, to break a generational curse. Didn't play baseball growing up, couldn't afford it, raised by a single mom, and baseball is expensive. And we didn't have those extra incomes and the extra coins to play this sport.
Now, you've even said with 6 kids that baseball is expensive, and I agree with you. I think that you're one of the parents that, knowing it's expensive, you do some different things to be able to help your kids play the game that they love and make sure that their fees are paid up and things like that. It kind of go into some things that you've done to help raise money to help pay for your kids' fees.
I think I sell a lot of the kids' toys when they're not looking. Get rid of that stuff. I've been fortunate to where I've done football pots. I've done football boards to make money, but outside of that, it's just a lot of sacrifice. And you'll spend money on what you want to spend money on. You'll pay for what you want to pay for. When Chandler was coming up, we played for Thrive Baseball. Thrive Baseball was a true nonprofit. We paid nowhere near the amount of money that these teams that will ask for now. We were extremely lucky. There's no way I could have afforded to have Chandler play in many places as he played. Music City Classic was an expensive tournament, but to me, it was better than the perfect game in East Cobb. I mean, it was just a phenomenal tournament. It was extremely. We were fortunate with Thrive Baseball to be able to play this game.
Yeah, and so you've done football pots, you've sold some toys. Are there anything else that you've done or that you've got going on now that you're doing?
Refresh my memory.
Tell us about the T-shirts you're making now.
Oh, my T-shirt. The T-shirts aren't for baseball. I guess the money. We got into doing T-shirts. Made some T-shirts with some bow ties a little while back, and 3 weeks ago, and then we started a T-shirt business. So yeah, I like my T-shirt.
We appreciate you dressing up for us too. You didn't have to get all formal on us, but we appreciate that.
Oh man, it's my pleasure.
It's been black tie the whole time.
I know, right? I will take a break from asking Chet some questions. Let's get into this rules question that you have, Joe.
Before we get into the rules question, we just have a word from another sponsor. We're going to be doing this about every 10 minutes to meet these obligations.
DFW Baseball Talk is brought to you by Travel Sports Baseball. Want to remind everybody about the 11th annual Travel Sports Baseball World Series. The last several years, there's been over 300 teams each year. Travel Sports Baseball World Series provides the best fields, best umpires, and best competition. Plus, it sells out each year. Go to playncs.com to sign up today.
So, Joey, your Facebook question this week was give us the scenario of what our question is today.
All right. We're going to focus on balks and certain one specific situation. So I'm going to ask this to all three of y'all. I kind of want to hear your answer, and then I'll go into the ruling behind it. With a runner on second base, the pitcher makes an inside move to attempt a pickoff, a legal inside move. After stepping directly to second base, the pitcher realizes no fielder is covering the bag, and he throws the ball to the shortstop at his position.
I know the answer.
Now,
You make the call, Don Myers.
What was the question again?
I
I guarantee I know the answer. Shoot the question at me one more time.
All right, with a runner on
For
second base,
listeners at home.
with the runner on second base, the pitcher makes a legal inside move to second.
Mm-hmm.
He steps directly towards the bag.
Mm-hmm.
No fielder covers second base.
Mm-hmm.
And so in seeing this, he throws the ball directly to the shortstop who's playing his normal position.
What's the problem? There is no problem.
Correct.
There's no balk.
There is no balk.
Mhm.
And this is I know when I first posed the question on Facebook, Albert immediately came back and said it was illegal. Talk about why you thought it was illegal.
Well, my thing is now once he disengages the rubber, then he can do whatever he wants.
Correct. But he was in contact. The scenario is he's in contact with the rubber. He lifts his leg up and makes a legal inside move towards second with a runner that's at second base.
Right. So my thought is he can't immediately throw to a position, but he can throw to a base. Now, if he fakes it and then disengages the rubber, he can do whatever he wants. He can throw wherever he wants. He can throw to center field if he wants to. My question is if does he do the fake, or is he just inside move, realizes not there, and throws it directly to shortstop? Is that what you're saying?
That's what he does. He does the inside move, throws it directly to the shortstop who's not at the bag,
Right.
who's 15, 20 feet away playing his normal shortstop position.
Got you. So give us what the rule says.
All right. So the ruling on this, and one thing people need to understand is baseball is played by multiple rule books. So high school, National Federation of High School has its own rule book, and Major League Baseball goes by something that's called OBR, or Official Baseball Rules. And in both rule sets, what the pitcher is allowed to do while in contact with the pitching plate, there's 13 items that both rule books state and deem are illegal, right? What makes this actually nothing is because if the rule book does not state that something is illegal, it then becomes legal. So to give you an example, National Federation of High School Rules states that, and I think the rule is 624A and B, but what it states is that the pitcher is allowed to feint a throw to either first or in FHS, he's not allowed, what is illegal is he's not allowed to feint a throw to first base.
Right.
Okay. So by default, because he's not allowed to feint to first base, he's allowed to feint a throw to second or third while in contact with the pitching plate. The only thing that could create a balk at this point is if he doesn't step towards the bag in which he attempts to make a play. Okay. So by default, because he is allowed to feint a throw, throwing to anywheres in the vicinity of the bag doesn't have to be directly to a bag, makes that legal, right? Because the feint of a throw doesn't even require a throw, or it doesn't define it as a throw has to go directly to that bag. And this brings up a lot of confusion. So in the Major League Baseball rule book, what it states is you can't feint a throw to first or third.
Right.
So by default, because it doesn't talk about second base, it makes that legal.
Okay, so which McSniggins was asleep at second and short that they didn't cover that bad.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Right. That's on coach, and I'll let Albert deal with that. But
All right.
for us as an official, we're just going to make the call as
For
needed.
you as an official, I'm going nuts in the stands, and now you got to tell me to leave my kid alone because now I'm thinking he's going to get pulled because he went to sleep on the bench. So,
should he be pulled for falling asleep on the bed?
if he's my kid, no. If he's somebody else's kid, get him out of there. He doesn't know what he's doing. Give my kid another chance.
Oh man. So I like the fact that you brought up McSniggins, because everybody and we always beat up on little Johnny because little Johnny's the guy that always makes the mistakes. He can't do anything right.
Right.
Where did McSniggins come from?
It's a movie clip. I don't know the guy's name, but there's when the guy that invented baseball, it was McSniggins. So you can find it on YouTube, man, and it's funny. And I think this is the only funny scene in the whole movie, from what I've been told.
You don't know what movie it is?
Man, I don't know.
McSniggins.
But it's funny. It's funny.
I've heard you say that, and I've seen it, and other people have used it too. And I don't know if they knew where it came from, or if they just got it from you. But I thought that was pretty funny when I first saw it.
Yeah. I think we started doing that about the time the site, the page became live. But it's YouTube McSniggins and baseball, and it'll come up and it'll hurt your side. It's pretty funny, 5 or 10 minute clip about how baseball was invented.
Talking about the site, the North Texas Baseball versus the World. You've been the admin. You started the group. I know we talked about one controversy. I'd like to get into and kind of talk. What are the top 5, and excuse my French, shit shows that have happened on North Texas Facebook versus the World, in your opinion, because you've got to moderate them?
Well, I don't think I could give you 5, but I think it's.
You're saying because there's more than 5?
Well, yeah, it's because there's more than 5, and because I don't know which one tops. But not being too specific about who, but it's the
we don't mind if you do. That's all up to you, though.
Yeah, we won't be doing that. and it's the 1 to 2, needing the 1 to 2 players, and the same team always needing 1 to 2 players. I find that odd that one team could always need 1 to 2 players. So between that and kids that are quote unquote 14 playing 12-year-old baseball, and that whole thing, that's probably another. Teams playing down when they should be playing up, and that's always been the case. When our 2018 class was coming up, Buzz Baseball that turned into Rivals, Tom English and Billy Hunt's group, those kids were phenomenal with Mason, and then later on they added Childress. People would wait around to sign into a tournament late because they didn't want to sign into a tournament where that team was playing on a weekend. So a lot of times Mason and those guys, they had to go somewhere else and play. People would see them signed up and they would pull out. And I think we see a lot of that now, where teams don't want to play certain teams because of their abilities to win.
Yeah, they don't want to play the Canes.
Yeah, well, yeah. And I think
they're the New York Yankees, you know.
I think that's crazy, because you're only going to get better playing good competition. And when we were the Rockwall Blue Sox, we always ended up playing the Buzz every Sunday. We were going to play them games 1 or game 2. If we even haven't played them on a Saturday, and they were going to give us Mason, they were going to give us Connor. Sometimes Connor would beat us. Sometimes we would beat Connor, and we never beat Mason.
I guess that's why he's with the Rangers now.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. That's why he's with the Rangers now, and that's why there are so many kids who are where they are, because they had to see his fastball. They had to learn how to hit him. And the thing is, if you play against good competition, you're only going to get better.
Right.
No one says you have to win a tournament. You have to win every tournament. When you get to where you're going to have to decide if a college wants you, they don't care. They want to know if you can hit this or you can pitch this. And that's what's going to get your kid to the next level, not whether you won a tournament. So playing the best competition is always better for your kid.
Well, I tell my kids all the time, you don't learn anything from winning. Very rarely is there anything ever gained knowledge-wise or that's going to improve you as a player from winning. You can learn a whole lot from losing. And losing motivates you.
Yeah.
Losing causes you to go dig. And if you're consistently winning, you think you're the best. Right. You can end up with complacency.
Yeah.
But I think it also from a parent, for not my perspective, but parents that I see, that losing makes you want to go look somewhere else.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. I know I've been on teams before where we lost and we lost and we lost. But the coach used to tell me, is your kid getting better? Yes, my kid is getting better. Now, no parent wants to be on a team that constantly loses, but you find a team that's right for you and you're patient and you make that team better. You don't team hop. There's no way you're 12 years old and you have 15 jerseys in your closet from having been on 15 different teams.
But it happens.
It happens, and it shouldn't. You leave a team for different reasons. If the team is not a good fit for you and your family, there's a way to leave a team. You finish out the season. You have your kid finish out the season. We left the team this fall. We'd gone over. My kid played. My kid did well. When my kid didn't do well, he didn't play. We didn't get into the coach's business. At the end of the season, we decided to take my kid. We let the team know, hey, we're not coming back. And that was a problem with that particular team, but we fulfilled our obligation to that team. But having to see my kid between innings, not socialize with the other kids, not seeing my kid socialize after the games, knowing what kind of kid he is, that team wasn't the team for me. It wasn't. And Chandler played with the rivals, and nobody hardly knows that, but it wasn't a good fit with Tom Englert. It wasn't a good fit. They were still my friends, but that wasn't a good fit for Chandler. So we moved. We ended up with the Hurricanes and with Johnny Wesson and Willie Lopez. Love Willie. When that situation did not pan out, it was time to go. And then we didn't stay. We went to Thrive, and we ended up finishing up with Thrive and playing the last few tournaments with the Sticks.
So why is it, do you feel that parents, well, I mean, like you said, explaining how you left teams, it sounds to me like you did it the right way from a coach's perspective. I would appreciate the way you did it because you fulfilled your commitment and your obligation to the team.
Right.
But there are parents that, whether you do it right or wrong, they won't be your friend anymore, even though y'all were friends for the whole season. And their husband's not a coach, or their wife is not a coach, but yet you lose friendships over leaving teams nowadays. Why do you think that is?
Egos, probably more than anything. And a lot of parents are looking for instant gratification. They're not looking for whether their kid is getting better. And your kid can be on a team that wins every tournament, but if you're not getting the reps you need for your kid to get better, those trophies that those kids are getting, that team is getting, is not going to translate to you going to the next level. So whether you're on a team that's winning, every tournament, if your kid isn't getting the reps, if you guys aren't practicing, if you guys are just showing up with different kids every weekend, and you're passing out jerseys in the parking lot before the game, you've never met this kid before, those are going to, you might not have the chemistry you need, or you may be hurting those kids that are on that team that are just there, on the bench paying their fees. But that's not for me to decide. I do what's right for my kid. Coaches have a right to cut kids. Parents have a right to move on. But if you're moving on every year, mid-season, 2 or 3 times in the season, the problem is not where you're going. The problem is you going to that team. And those coaches need to look at you long and hard. Why are you over here? Weren't you just with 2 other teams in the last month? You're not going to stay, and it's not going to be a good fit.
So do you think it's more a parent's perspective or the kid's perspective as to why they leave?
I think it's more the parents. If you ask kids, a lot of the times they don't know why they left. They don't know why they're leaving these teams. And the parents' egos, because McSniggins needs to be at shortstops or center field. Your McSniggins needs to be batting 1, 2, or 3. And I don't care if my kid plays left field, right field, if he bats 7, as long as he gets to play.
Yeah, and I've seen parents, that get upset about how a team does, whether if they're losing, and decide that they're going to leave, but they don't look in the mirror and see that their kid was a big reason as to why they lost.
Yeah,
because he was playing short and making errors, or because he was pitching and couldn't throw strikes, or he couldn't hit the ball. But yet they'll be the first ones to get ticked off and leave a team and not realizing my kid was part of the problem.
Right.
And maybe they didn't give the coach the opportunity to get that kid where he wanted to be because he's too busy, or the parents are too busy jumping from one team to the next. What are your thoughts on that?
That's always happened, and that's definitely one of the main reasons why people leave. Sometimes, and I'm going to go in a big circle, sometimes it's great to have good team chemistry where the parents get along. And sometimes that can bite you in the butt because those same people are close. Once that virus starts and they start talking amongst themselves, you're not just losing one kid. You're going to lose that one kid. You're going to lose that best friend. And those people are going to take off. But parents are selfish, and maybe they don't mean to be, but maybe they're just looking for that instant gratification. And it's how it's always been. And I don't know what has to happen for it to change. But maybe that all changed when we went from having dad coaches and volunteer coaches to paid coaches. Because if I'm paying you and my son's not playing, or my son is not the kind of player that you say he is when I'm paying you $40 to $50 to come to pay you for lessons every week, why is he not better than what he is? And do I need to leave and go to another team? So, where do we go? Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Well, and I'll touch a little bit on that just because I don't give as many lessons now as I used to, just because I don't have time. But one thing that would really aggravate me and go back and touch on what we did the previous week, because that kid's not doing anything he's not doing anything else outside of what we do or what his team does. And your kid, you may bring your kid to me for pitching lessons, and his teammate, he may not even pitch on that team. And the parent wants him to be a pitcher, which is fine. There's nothing. If he's not getting the reps at practice or in games or even their own, then we're being counterproductive. You're basically just throwing your money away. And I want to see that. I don't want a parent throwing their money away, and you're not going to get good results if your kid is not doing things in between his lessons and his practices. I mean, it was a game that you have to work, and you know that with your kids and what you've if you don't work as a coach that's given lessons, you can tell. You can tell from one week to the next whether he's done something or hasn't done something for that week. I mean, kids like that all the time.
Right.
Is it a lack of communication? I mean, what do you think causes that kids don't get work outside of whatever they go to practice or lessons?
Maybe those parents don't know baseball, and I don't know baseball. And when my kid would go to pitching lessons, it was kind of hard for me if I didn't go inside and listen to the coach, it was hard for me to try to tell my kid what to do from knowledge. I couldn't tell my kid what to do from personal knowledge. I had to tell my kid what to do from what I heard. Or also, that coach had to kind of train me also. So not only was my kid getting a pitching lesson, me as the dad was getting that same pitching lessons. So let's flip the script. If the mother is taking that kid to pitching lessons, is the mother really understanding what that coach said? Is the mother really paying that close of attention to what that coach is saying? So, where do we go? When you go home, is the mother going to help that kid pitch? Some mothers will, some mothers won't. So also that kid has school, that kid has other interests. So when is the kid supposed to work on that every day? And baseball is a weird sport. You're not going to go down to the park and play like you play basketball, or outside the front yard and play football. There's not that many kids in our neighborhood that plays baseball. So who's that kid supposed to play baseball with?
Yeah. So no, that's a great question. That's something that I want to know, but I will never tell a kid no if they call me and say, hey, can we go get some work?
Yeah.
I mean, we got to figure it out, whether it's your schedule, my schedule. I mean, I want my kids to be better, because they're not only going to be better for themselves, they're going to be better for me come game day. So what do we do? I mean, is that a communication issue that they're not calling their coaches or their teammates or I know you, if one of your kids' teammates says, hey, can me and Chandler go throw, or can we go get some work in? I mean, you're going to try to do what you can to make that happen, right?
Is that coach available? If I call the coach, a paid coach, and I want to get some extra work in, is he somewhere giving lessons on his days off? And I'll tell you this: we were with the Hurricanes. Chandler was from 13 and some of 14, and that was a free team. That wasn't a paid team during that time. And Johnny Wesson, he wanted to practice every day. And we practiced every day, whether we had mandatory practice or whether we had voluntary practice. Even in the off season, Johnny didn't have wife, didn't have kids. I mean, it's Christmas Eve. If you want to come over on Christmas Eve and we meet up at the park and get some work, we're going to get. How many paid coaches are going to do that? Most coaches have families. You can't expect them to do that. That was one of those situations to where that doesn't happen. And as Thrive, we had coaches, we had 4 or 5 coaches, and Ryan Enos would meet up with you, but that was before he had a kid. When he had the kid, that kid became his focus. You can't fault him for that.
Right.
And Ryan Enos was one of the best coaches that we ever had at that age and going forward as far as mentorship. But you had to understand he had a family. He had other obligations. So, what do you can't knock a coach for not being available. And you also if that coach is giving lessons, is he obligated to start that kid at shortstop? He's been giving him lessons, taking $60 to $80 from him a week. Is he going to give that kid a shot at shortstop, or is he going to give that kid that's not going to him, that's going to somebody else? So you start to have a problem. Parents are going to want to know why this kid's better than my kid. So I don't know. I don't know what you do about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I mean, it's a tough question. It's something I hope that we can find a way to figure it out, because there's more and more kids that aren't putting in the extra work to get to where they need to be. And I think a big problem is, and I don't know if it's really a problem, but I think a big deal is they have so many options nowadays that you and I didn't have growing up. We didn't have the computers and the video games and all that, and cell phones and things that we can do now, so that's a big part of it too.
You start getting into daddy ball, and people have a knock against so-called quote unquote daddy ball. But when daddies were coaching these teams, there were more extra practices going on because the dad wasn't charging for lessons. The dad wasn't unavailable. That kid and that kid's friends were getting lessons. And when the team is free and the coach is not caught up giving lessons, I think they are more available. And there are some coaches that manage their time. Look, I'm available Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. We got practice on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If we need to do something on weekends or in the evenings, they are available. But those coaches are few and far in between.
And there's a couple of good ones out there.
Absolutely.
There's some really good independent teams that do it the right way, but the all-in, the best way to call it, of the option for the parent with big organization, where I pay one fee to this organization, they handle all the rest.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of taken over because there's a lot of ease with it. Plus, there's facilities that involved. Plus, there's extra stuff that they can do. A good example from an independent coach is Chris Cox with the Texas Tide. They've been independent for a while. They compete. I think they won the Travel Sports World Series this last year. But there's ways for it to be done. It's just you don't typically see it. It's not nearly as prevalent as organizational baseball now.
Right.
Hey, before we get into too much more, we just need to have a word from our sponsor.
Registration is now open for sports baseball tournaments. Go to playncs.com. Remember to sign up for Strike Against Cancer. That tournament is May 9th and 10th, and that's benefiting strikes21.org. So Chet, here recently, I know that you've gotten some feedback from some baseball moms that wanted some recognition and wanted some things, and maybe recognition's not the right word, but they wanted, I think it's always been driven towards a male perspective and not a female perspective. Give us some feedback on what you've heard and what you've done.
Okay, that's Quisha Malcolm that you're talking about, and it's funny that Quisha's husband, Eddie Malcolm, and I go way back from coaching Pee Wee football. And Eddie actually coached my second oldest son when he was 8 years old. We were called a catfish or something like that. Our team was called Catfish or something. But Quisha reached out and said, "Hey, you need to acknowledge Mudcats. Mm-hmm. You need to acknowledge the moms." And I had not thought of it before, and I posted that, and that post off. But she's right. There's not enough credit that goes to the moms. You normally see pictures of dads working out with the kids, and rarely you'll see a picture of a mom playing catch with a kid. But if it's not for the moms, nobody's going anywhere. Probably not going to have clean uniforms. Kids not going to be fed or get enough.
I've had a wife, for so long, and there's a lot of single moms out there that are the mom and the dad and do everything for their kids. And, it's that's one thing that I grew up with. My mom was a single mom raising 5 kids. You said it yourself. Your mom was a single mom raising you. And, right. And they do what they can with what they have. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of great moms out there. And we get some, even on your Facebook page, there's a lot of good feedback. A lot of things to say. And I think a lot of it, for the most part, is positive. But
you're talking about Nia Bowen?
No, Nia.
Shane's mom.
Shane's mom.
Oh,
yeah.
What's her last name?
Irvins. Is it Irvins?
I can't think of.
Nia, I apologize if you're listening, but you know who we're talking about. She's an awesome lady. She really is. And she's Jar's her oldest son. He's at University of Arkansas, Pine Bluff, I believe, playing baseball out there. Great kid. Great family. She put something on Facebook maybe about a year ago, and she was pretty upset. And after I read it, I agree with her, mm-hmm. And I can even be at fault for being one of the people, but she made a comment that, why is it when a mom makes a comment, nobody says anything about it? But when a dad makes a comment, everybody has something positive or negative. And some of the comments she made were valid and true and were good comments, mm-hmm. but she couldn't even get a like on it.
Yeah.
And it kind of ticked her off a little bit, which, like I said, I can agree with that to a certain extent. Why don't you weigh in on that? What you think about that?
Well, with Nia, I probably have. I don't fight with a lot of people, but I fight with Nia. That's who I fight with, and she's right. Sometimes you take for granted when a father says something, and it's like, okay, yeah, I can get behind that. But Nia's raised 2 boys, and Jar, her oldest son, he's absolutely phenomenal.
Yep.
And I love Jar, and I follow Jar, and I reach out to him from time to time and check on him. And whenever I do see Nia, that's the first thing I ask her is, how is Jar doing? But I think she's right. There are a lot of moms who don't say anything on Facebook because they don't want to be attacked or to have what they're saying misconstrued. And a man can say the same thing and not take near as amount of does.
Yeah, because I think people look at it as she's a woman, she doesn't know what she's talking about, which is so far from the truth, especially with her being with as long as she has. And Jar played for some good teams. He played for Omar Turner for a long time, who's a great coach and a good guy most of the time till he starts talking about my golf game. But anyway, Jar is a great kid. He's got a good head on his shoulders. And I'll remember going to some of their games, and I'm sitting in the dugout, and Shane comes in there, and he's sitting with Jar, and they're talking about the game, and he's talking him up, playing. Jar would come in the dugout and say, hey, you need to do this. And he would correct him and tell him things that he needed to do. And I'm sure there's some of that stuff came from his mom too. Hey, you need to go talk to your brother, get him right, because if he's not right. But no, that's a great family, and I like seeing what she has to say. And sometimes it's funny to see what she says because she don't hold anything back.
No, she doesn't hold back. she doesn't hold back because she's confident in what she's saying and she believes in what she's saying, and she has the proof is in the pudding for as far as backing up what she's saying.
So when are we going to see a post about the moms, the biggest gossiping teams, or the biggest teams that have the moms that go at it? I'm sure there's some of those out there.
There may very well be, but that post won't be coming from me. That's something that I try to stay away from. I try not to be controversial, and I think over Christmas, I sat on my patio and I had some cigars, and you asked me earlier if I drink, and I don't drink, but I had some drinks one night and I posted, "Let's get it on," but no one took me up on it, and I was ready to talk about whatever anybody wanted to talk about. I think I was ready to fight that night.
Oh man!
But nobody took me up on it, and the next day I was like, "Oh, good, I didn't say anything crazy."
So we got to keep the drink away from you then, huh?
Yeah, I don't like alcohol. It doesn't agree with me. It's just something that's not a part of who I am or what I do. I used to tell my kids I don't drink, so I don't expect that you would. But the two kids that were in the military, I think they drink, and I hope that I can keep it away from the rest of them.
I hear you, man. So. Well, I guess that post about the moms, I guess we'll just leave that up to Jamie Saylor to put out there.
Oh man, you don't want to leave anything up to Jamie. I don't want Jamie to take some unnecessary.
No, I like Jamie. I don't have an issue with him at all. I mean, I think he's a good guy.
I do like Jamie. I love how his calves have become like the calling card for Jamie. You know, everybody likes to talk about the size of Jamie Saylor's calves.
Yeah, I think he's injecting steroids in those.
He's injecting something in there.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about moms in the game of baseball. I actually think they're more important than dads to some extent because they bring, I'm going to tell you, as an umpire looking in the stands, there's always more moms typically than there is dads. There's more women there, especially at the younger ages. My kids, based on what I do, I'm umpiring, I'm running umpires 7 days a week. I don't get to see my kids play very much. I don't get to bring them to practice. My wife is the driving force. And because I'm in the baseball world, I want my kids to love baseball. I don't push them into it. My wife is the slave driver, right? When it comes to my kids with both sports, with academics, and she's really important into their lives. So I think we need to give a big shout out to all the moms that have made it possible for their McSniggins, as you like to say, to enjoy and love the game of baseball.
Exactly.
Yeah, my mom, man, she played some softball growing up, and I remember on Sundays she'd make a big meal for us, and we'd go to church, and then right after that we were to the softball field to watch her play. Man, that was a long time ago, but she always made sure that we had what we needed, and whatever she had to do. We didn't have money, so I mean, do fundraisers or whatever, like you said you did, just to make sure that we had the things that were necessary for us to play the game. But she'd sit and talk baseball with us and others, and we would get it going. And I learned a lot from my mom, and I definitely could tell you I wouldn't have a lot of the baseball without my mom.
Yeah, and baseball is pretty much, believe it or not, baseball is fairly new to my house. I used to coach football in Mesquite for the Gators, Mesquite Pee Wee football Gators, and my oldest son, he guest played one Saturday. They needed a kid. They didn't need him Sunday. They just needed him that Saturday. It's like we don't play baseball, so we go out. He's in right field, and he fell in love with it. And he actually hit the ball, did pretty good. They let him come back the Sunday, and the kid that returned Sunday, they had that kid sit on the bench. And so my oldest kid started playing, and that's how we got into baseball. So my mother never really had to worry about me in baseball, and I never really even thought that we would be a baseball family. So it's fairly new to our house.
Well, I'm really glad that you're here and you joined us today, because you're giving us a parent's perspective. Even a parent that didn't grow up playing baseball. So you kind of, you've probably learned or if not everything, at least the majority of baseball, just from your kids, their lessons, and the things that they've gone through. If you look at baseball as a whole right now, what do you think the state of baseball, travel baseball, is in right now? Is it good? Is it bad? I mean, what is your thought just from a dad looking?
Well, I have a lot to say about that. Like Don said earlier, but we didn't touch on it. The 2018 class is pretty much the pioneering group of kids for travel baseball and Don. When these boys started out, they started out playing 6U T-ball, and it's 6U T-ball. It was big. There were tournaments that actually made every weekend. And this is Tom Englert, Billy Hunts, the Buzz, this Texas Sticks, the McKinney Marshalls, the McKinney Broncos. These were all these teams. Yeah, Flower Mountain Warriors. These are all these teams that were coming on board, and know the Dallas Patriots were coming on then, and I don't remember the Tigers. I think they came around, and baseball was probably not at that time what somebody would say it was different 10 years ago, probably different 10 years before that. I don't think baseball is different now. I think what's different is the parents. I think a lot of parents don't understand that you don't have to be cutthroat for your kid to be good. I think a lot of parents don't understand that baseball is a weird sport. It's not like football. That school doesn't have to have your kid. There's probably 100 kids that can do the same thing that your kid does. And if your kid is not into academics, you're not going to stand a chance. Baseball is one of those sports to where academics is a big part of it. They probably won't take a chance on your kid if he's borderline with the education and somebody else can do just about what he does. You're in trouble. So
You've said that baseball is a weird sport. Elaborate on that. What you're talking about exactly?
Baseball being a weird sport, I mean, you have to be in the right place at the right. There's no cookie cutter way to have your kids seen. There's no cookie cutter way to have a school want your kid. And to be honest with you, if you're considering baseball and scholarship, and you're into it for the wrong reasons, program, and there's more for junior college. There's even less for or none for some of the other sanctioning bodies, and there's less for D2. And a lot of what your scholarships is going to be at D1 is going to be more education than anything else. And if you feel that your 12-year-old, your 10-year-old, your 13-year-old is that good to where they're going to get 100% scholarship for athleticism, you're seriously mistaken. When the field gets bigger at 60, 90 and kids start to develop, it's the field gets bigger and kids get better.
Right.
So you it's just not one of those sports where you're guaranteed a scholarship. And some people turn their noses up at junior college baseball. I didn't have any knowledge of junior college baseball before my son decided to go to Odessa. And it ended up being one of the best decisions for us. There were a lot of kids who went off to D1 programs and didn't play, redshirt, and it upset them, and they felt like they were better than that. Well, we played at the junior college, and we had a chance to get better. We had a chance to see college baseball for what it was, and junior college baseball is some of the best baseball I've seen, and we enjoyed it. We loved it.
Well, I know when Chan played for me, you said he went to Oklahoma with us, and he did. And I know that Oklahoma was interested in him, and we put him on the bump, and he did his job. Mm-hmm. And Coach Pete Hughes was the coach there at that time. And I told Coach Hughes when I talked to him, I said, look, he's interested in Oklahoma, but he's also got other schools that are looking at him too. And if you want him, you better make a decision quick, because he's going to go somewhere else. And that was one thing that he and I had talked about. And I told Chan too, I said, hey, just go out there and do your job, do what you know how to do. And he did that. Yeah. I was extremely happy with the way he performed. And I thought that he did everything he could have done of what was expected of him to be able to get an offer. And they never made that offer, at least through me. And I know that Chan had other offers to go play at different schools. What made you guys decide that Odessa was the right fit for him?
It's interesting that you asked that. I didn't make that decision. Chandler made that decision. And at some point with that kid, all my kids are different. Everyone has a different personality. And certainly Chandler is a strange kid. If you know, if you know me and you know him, once he decided that he wanted to go to Odessa, there was no turning back. That was the decision that he made. And I think we ended up with about 6 or 7 offers total when he had to make a decision. Some were formal, some offers were informal, and even Odessa's offer was informal. But that ended up being the school that we decided to go to, and we got that from a V-Tool. V-Tools are some really good tournaments, and there are some really good tournaments played here locally. He pitched against the Sticks at DBU, and DBU became interested in him. Navarro became interested in him, and Odessa became interested in him. And ultimately was the V-Tool tournament and him deciding to go to Odessa. That was his decision.
V-Tool, that's Lynn Van Landingham's program, 5-tool, V-Tool.
Right. Yeah, it's to me, you don't have to go to perfect. You don't have to travel. You can play right here locally, and schools are to North Texas to find kids.
Yeah, those 5-tool events are awesome. I mean, the way that they run everything, it's organized. And me as a coach, man, I make sure that our high school program are playing in those, because I think you get the most for your money, you know, in those showcases, because there's always coaches there. There's a lot of organizations out there that say that they're showcases, but there's no coaches out there. So
there's what is the tournament? There's a league that's played in the fall. We played out in
is it the MSL?
MSL.
Yeah, we played the MSL, also the Metro Scout League, and Chandler got University of Louisiana Monroe, which he had originally committed to and decommitted to go to Odessa. So there's plenty of opportunities for those parents who are looking for places to play. And I think a lot of people don't look at TCS as a viable option. TCS, I think it affords you an opportunity to get bigger, get stronger, and not lose a year of eligibility. I mean, if your kid wants to play, especially here in North Texas, man, there's tons of things you can do. But a lot of times parents get in the way, and their chests are stuck out as D1 or nothing, and it cannot be that way.
It shouldn't be that way. I think a lot of that is just parents are not informed. They don't know what their options are out there, because if I could do it all over again, and I had daughters, but if I could do it all over again, if I had a son, I mean, I would push him the JUCO route.
Oh yeah.
I just think it's better. You're going to actually play. You're going to get time. And like we've said before, I mean, all those JUCOs feed into somewhere else.
Right.
So you can get opportunities. And I'm glad you brought up TCS, because
Dax will be on next week.
Yeah, Dax will be on next week, and we'll talk about TCS and their program and dive more into the ins and outs of that and get more information on that. So I think that'll be a big, and that's more for kids that don't get an offer or aren't happy with the offers that they received. So we'll definitely talk to Dax about that next week. Looking forward to that.